Emma sat at the edge of her bed, her fingers absently tracing the hem of her silk nightgown. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional rustle of Daniel's breathing as he slept beside her. Moonlight filtered through the blinds, casting faint stripes across the duvet. She glanced at her husband, his face relaxed in slumber, and felt a pang of something she couldn't quite name. Guilt. Restlessness. It had been years since they'd shared anything more than a perfunctory kiss or a hurried conversation about bills and schedules. Daniel was a good man. Steady, reliable, the kind of husband her mother had always said she should marry. But lately, Emma had begun to wonder if good was enough. At 32, she had everything she was supposed to want: a thriving career as a graphic designer, a cozy suburban home, and a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. Yet, there was a hollow space inside her, a quiet ache that no amount of success or stability could fill. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, startling her. She picked it up, squinting at the screen. The name that flashed across it made her heart skip a beat. Liam. Liam. Her cousin. Her childhood confidant. The boy who'd taught her how to ride a bike, who'd shared secrets with her under the stars during summer vacations. They hadn't spoken in years, not since he'd moved to the West Coast for a job in tech. What could he possibly want at this hour? She hesitated, then slipped out of bed and padded into the hallway, closing the door softly behind her. "Hello," she whispered, her voice tinged with both curiosity and apprehension. "Emma." Liam's voice came through, low and urgent. "I'm sorry to call so late. I needed to hear your voice." There was something in his tone that made her stomach twist. "Liam, what's wrong? Are you okay?" He let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, I'm fine. Well, not really. I need to see you. Can we meet tomorrow?" Emma blinked, her mind racing. "Meet? Liam, you're in California. I'm in Chicago. What's going on?" "I'm in town," he said quickly. "Flew in this afternoon. Look, I know this is weird, but it's important. Please, Emma. Just hear me out." She bit her lip, glancing back at the closed bedroom door. Daniel would be up in a few hours, and she had a mountain of work waiting for her at the office. But there was a desperation in Liam's voice that she couldn't ignore. "Okay," she said finally. "Where?" They agreed on a small cafe near her office, a place she frequented for lunch. As she hung up, Emma felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread. What could Liam possibly need to tell her that couldn't be said over the phone? The next morning she dressed carefully, choosing a fitted blouse and a skirt that hugged her curves. She told herself it was just to feel confident, but deep down she knew it was more than that. Liam had always had a way of making her feel seen, even when no one else seemed to notice her. The cafe was quiet when she arrived, the scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods filling the air. Liam was already there, seated at a corner table. He looked up as she approached, and her breath caught. He was still as handsome as she remembered, his dark hair slightly tousled, his green eyes bright with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Emma," he said, standing to greet her. His voice was warm, but there was a tension in his posture that made her uneasy. "Liam," she replied, forcing a smile. "It's been a long time." They sat, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Finally, Liam leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly on the table. "I don't know how to say this," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "But I can't keep it to myself anymore. Emma, I'm in love with you. I have been for years." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. She stared at him, her mind reeling. "Liam, you can't be serious. We're cousins. This is crazy." "I know," he said, his eyes pleading. "But I can't help how I feel. Every time I see you, it's like I'm alive again. I tried to move on, to forget about you, but I can't. I need you, Emma." Her heart pounded in her chest, a chaotic mix of emotions swirling inside her. Disbelief. And beneath it all, a flicker of something she didn't want to acknowledge. "I'm married," she said weakly, as if reminding herself as much as him. I know, Liam replied. And I'm not asking you to do anything. I just needed you to know the truth. Emma looked away, her mind racing. This was wrong. She knew it was wrong. But as she sat there, staring at the man who had once been her closest friend, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him. The cafe seemed to fade around her, the noise of the world muffled as she grappled with the weight of his confession. And in that moment, she knew nothing would ever be the same. Emma's hands trembled as she clutched her coffee cup, the warmth seeping into her palms but doing little to steady her nerves. Liam's confession hung in the air between them, heavy and unrelenting. She couldn't bring herself to look at him, afraid of what she might see or feel if she did. Liam, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't even know what to say. You can't just drop something like this on me and expect me to know how to respond. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. I know, he said, his tone tinged with regret. And I'm sorry. I didn't plan this. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. Every time I see you, it's like I'm drowning, and the only thing that keeps me afloat is the hope that maybe, just maybe, you feel the same way. Emma's chest tightened. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that this was impossible, that she loved Daniel and would never betray him. But the words caught in her throat. Because deep down in a part of herself she rarely acknowledged, she felt it too. The pull, the connection, the undeniable chemistry that had always existed between them. Liam, we're family, she said finally, her voice strained. This isn't just complicated. It's wrong. Is it? He challenged, his green eyes locking onto hers. Because I don't feel like your cousin when I'm with you. I feel like I'm home. The sincerity in his voice made her breath hitch. She looked away, her gaze falling to the table where her coffee sat untouched. You don't understand, she said softly. Daniel is my husband. He's a good man. He doesn't deserve this. I'm not asking you to hurt him, Liam said quickly. I'm not asking you to do anything. I just needed you to know how I feel. Because if I didn't tell you, I think it would have killed me. Emma's mind raced, torn between loyalty to Daniel and the undeniable pull she felt toward Liam. She thought of her husband, of the life they'd built together. It was safe, predictable. But was it enough? I need time, she said at last, her voice barely audible. I need to think. Liam nodded, his expression a mix of relief and apprehension. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The rest of their meeting passed in a blur. They talked about mundane things, work, family, the weather. But the weight of Liam's confession lingered, casting a shadow over every word. When they finally parted ways, Emma felt as though she were walking through a dream. Her thoughts a tangled mess of guilt, desire, and confusion. Back at her office, she tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting back to Liam. She found herself replaying their conversation, analyzing every word, every glance. The more she thought about it, the more she realized how much she'd missed him, not just as a cousin, but as a friend, a confidant, someone who truly understood her. That evening, Daniel came home late, as he often did. He kissed her on the cheek, his lips cool and perfunctory, and asked about her day. She gave him a vague answer, her guilt making it hard to meet his eyes. You okay? He asked, his brow furrowing in concern. You seem off. I'm fine, she lied, forcing a smile. Just tired. He nodded, seemingly satisfied, and disappeared into the kitchen to pour himself a drink. Emma watched him go, a pang of guilt twisting in her chest. Daniel was a good man. He didn't deserve this. But as the days passed, Emma found herself thinking more and more about Liam. They began texting, at first innocently enough, but the conversations quickly grew more personal. He asked about her marriage, her dreams, her fears. And she found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. One evening, as she sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, Daniel glanced up from his laptop. Who are you texting? He asked, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Just a friend, she said quickly, her heart racing. He raised an eyebrow. You've been on your phone a lot lately. Everything okay? Yeah, she said, forcing a smile. Just catching up with an old friend. Daniel studied her for a moment, then nodded and went back to his work. But Emma could feel his eyes on her throughout the evening, and the weight of his suspicion only added to her growing unease. That night, as she lay in bed beside her husband, Emma stared at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She knew she was playing with fire, that every text, every thought of Liam brought her closer to the edge of something she might not be able to come back from. But as she closed her eyes, all she could see was Liam's face. His green eyes filled with a longing that mirrored her own. And in that moment, she wasn't sure she wanted to turn back. The rain fell in a steady rhythm against the windowpane, a somber backdrop to the storm brewing inside Emma's heart. She sat at the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the rim of her teacup, her thoughts a tangled web of guilt and desire. Liam's texts had become a constant presence in her life, a secret she carried with her like a second shadow. Each message was a spark, igniting feelings she had tried so hard to suppress. Daniel's voice broke through her reverie. Emma, are you even listening? She blinked, pulling herself back to the present. Sorry, what? He sighed, setting down the newspaper he'd been reading. I asked if you wanted to go to my parents' this weekend. Mom's been asking about you. Oh, she said, her mind scrambling for an excuse. I think I have a work thing. Deadline. I'm not sure I can make it. Daniel frowned, his gaze narrowing slightly. You've been really distracted lately. Is everything okay? I'm fine, she said quickly, forcing a smile. Just stressed with work. You know how it is. He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable, then nodded and went back to his paper. But Emma could feel the weight of his suspicion, a silent accusation that made her stomach churn. Later that evening, as she lay in bed pretending to sleep, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She glanced at Daniel, his breathing slow and even before reaching for it. Liam *** can't stop thinking about you. Meet me tomorrow. **. Her heart raced as she typed a reply. Where? Liam *** the park. Noon. Please, **. She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the screen. This was dangerous, reckless, but the pull was too strong to resist. The next day, Emma told Daniel she had a lunch meeting and left the house with a knot of guilt tightening in her chest. The park was quiet, the rain having given way to a pale, watery sunlight. She spotted Liam near the fountain, his hands shoved into the pockets of his coat, his breath visible in the crisp autumn air. Hey, he said as she approached. His voice soft but laced with tension. Hey, she replied, her own voice barely above a whisper. For a moment they just stood there, the space between them charged with unspoken words. Then Liam stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. I know this is crazy, he said. I know it's wrong. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way about you. Emma's breath caught. Liam, we can't. I'm not asking for forever, he interrupted. Just give me today. One day. That's all I'm asking. She looked at him, her resolve crumbling under the weight of his gaze. And then, before she could stop herself, she nodded. They spent the afternoon wandering the park, talking and laughing like they had as kids. But there was an undercurrent of something deeper, something electric that neither of them could ignore. When Liam reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. And when he leaned in to kiss her, she met him halfway. It was a kiss that shattered everything. Her marriage, her sense of self, the fragile illusion of control she'd been clinging to. For a moment the world fell away, and there was only Liam. His lips on hers, his hands in her hair. His heart beating in time with her own. But as the kiss ended, reality came crashing back. Emma pulled away, her chest heaving, her mind reeling. This is a mistake, she said, her voice trembling. Is it? Liam asked, his eyes dark with emotion. Because it feels like the only thing that's ever made sense. She shook her head, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. I can't do this. I married Liam. I made a vow. And what about your vow to yourself? He countered. To be happy. To live a life that's true to who you are. Emma opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Because deep down she knew he was right. She had been living a half-life, going through the motions, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. But that didn't make this any less wrong. I have to go, she said finally, stepping back. I can't do this. Liam didn't try to stop her. He just stood there, his expression a mix of heartbreak and understanding as she turned and walked away. Back at home, Daniel was waiting. He looked up from his laptop as she walked in, his eyes narrowing. Where were you? Work, she lied, her voice shaky. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. But as she walked past him, she caught the flicker of doubt in his eyes, and she knew the truth was written all over her face. That night, as she lay in bed beside her husband, Emma stared at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of guilt and regret. She had crossed a line, and there was no going back. But as she closed her eyes, all she could see was Liam's face. His green eyes filled with a longing that mirrored her own. And in that moment, she wasn't sure she wanted to.